Hey guys, Lighten here, and these are my tips and strategies if you want to get the Boss Run Impossible trophy on the PlayStation 4. To start off with, this achievement might be impossible unless you do a glitch at the start to give you 200 health throughout the run. To pull this off, you have to select Bankkrent Phase 2 in the Boss Rush mode. From here, fight him like normal, which is good practice for later, up until the point where he gets stunned and you drop off your two friends to one of the sides. Now you need to wait there and let them die, because this will force you to lose the match. But instead of putting you to the boss rush menu, it actually loads your last save file, and as long as you had 200 health in that save file, we get a little glitch. So what you need to do is select restart run. After it loads, you select leave run, and now you can select a new run. That's a lot of runs, and now you have 200 health for your boss rush impossible try. So let's get into that impossible challenge. When you start a new run, the order of the first two fights is random. Here, I got the Snail, which is definitely the easiest fight of the whole game. Just race it to the top and that's it, it can't even hurt you. So as long as you know how to shoot, you're gonna win this fight. The second fight is Frederick Fish. Now, fun fact, he can be either green or yellow, so there's a little bit of a palette swap. He is fairly easy. He will go from one side to the other and either just surface and look at you, or he'll do that jumping attack where he tries to eat you. And finally, he also has a bubble spitting attack where he shoots water up in the air and it rains down. As long as you're standing on the platform in the middle and move back so you don't get hit, you shouldn't take any damage and you'll be dead in no time. The third fight is against King Blione, and I start the fight by jumping to the left and then jumping over because I'm a little bit paranoid that I'm going to get hit, but from here on out you can just walk to the left and right, going through the enemies and not really having any issues. Your main goal is to attack the king, so just aim into the crowd while walking in between them and giving enough space that you don't get hit. And now we get our first respite, and due to the challenge we can't buy anything from the shops. Instead, I would suggest mapping your weapon and your healing item to whatever feels comfortable for you. I like square and triangle. So on to the next fight, and this is probably the hardest one to pronounce, Blendbjick. That nailed it. He will always drop down and create a little shockwave which you have to jump over at the start of the fight, and then he will proceed to waddle to the right and you can just shoot him from behind. Be careful, because once he reaches the wall, he will fall back and try and crush you, which deals massive damage. So just move back and jump over a cloud of smoke when he does that there. Now, after that, he has some random moves that he can do. As you saw, that one, he just floats up to the top of the screen and then tries to drop on top of you, and it's pretty easy to dodge because it's very well telegraphed. You can also move to the left, which you saw there, which is the same as when he walks to the right. The other move that he has is that he can bounce from side to side. I found that staying in the corners is pretty safe, but you can still get hit. It's okay because you will get healed after this fight, and taking 1 or 2 hits should be fine. After you've dealt at least 2 circles worth of damage, he can split into this 9 pattern. If you see this, just start on one side and run all the way to the other while shooting behind you to hit them as you're going past. If you keep moving, they shouldn't hurt you, and it should be pretty easy to avoid everything. You can't hurt him when he's green, so just focus on shooting when he's yellow. So when the health gets down to halfway in the final circle, he will go insane and try and crush you. This also shoots electricity out, which can hurt you, so you just have to stay off to the side until he tries to squish you, then get a couple of shots in before running away. If you're like me and you manage to get him into a cycle where he's in a longer attack, such as walking to the wall, you can deplete all of his health, skipping this phase entirely, but it's completely luck-based. And see, it gives you some health for beating him. This next fight is against Blafknoft, and that's another fun word to say. What you want to do is focus on the left-hand side of it, because when he jumps up, he will yell to the right, so that way you can get a little bit more damage onto him. As he will go around the walls, he will yell at them, and that can spit out rocks. You just want to avoid them. The smallest rocks deal the least damage, and then the medium rocks, and then the large rocks deal the most. So you want to try and avoid it, but even if you do get hit a few times, it's okay, because after every 2 circles of health or so, he will drop some hearts. If you deal enough damage to him quickly enough, he can change his patterns or which way he's walking as well. What you want to do is either bounce off of the toadstools, which gives you a smaller bounce, or you want to use the Bliones to jump higher in order to reach him when he's at the top. Beware of his legs as they stab down because they can hurt you, but they are also pretty easy to dodge. When he does look from side to side, just take note of which one he ends up in, because you want to go to the opposite end when he wakes up in order to shoot him from behind. Here he'll do his other attack where he tries to eat you from the bottom. Just run to the right and jump over it. It's pretty easy to dodge because it's a very slow move. His final phase will have him walking really quickly, so you'll just have to keep aiming and shooting, dealing as little damage as you can because it's only ones, and just hoping that you chip enough damage away from him. He does have one final attack, which he can sometimes do. If he gets up to the top and middle of the thing, he can drop down upon you, which deals pretty heavy damage, but if you ever just see him stop, just walk to one side or the other and it should be easy to avoid. Dealing enough damage does kill him and will give you a significant amount of health back, so you should be at full health defeating him. Also be wary because while he's walking in his death animation, his feet do still hurt you, so you just make sure you're standing on one side or the other to avoid that. And now we've got to do a whole barrage of fights with no healing, and while that does seem hard, the fights themselves aren't too difficult. This next phase is all in a random order. For me, I got the Dustboss first. This guy is a giant ball of dust and he isn't too difficult to fight. Just continually shoot at him. His moves are doing that concentration where he'll explode into a bunch of lint balls. Shooting them out of the air will break them up and then destroy them, so just focus on not getting hit, I guess. He can also jump, and even if he lands on top of you, it doesn't deal any damage. It's the shockwave that does damage. He can also eat and spit out these balls, and I never really found a consistent strategy to dodge them. I just sort of weave back and forth, jumping over one and then trying to go underneath the next one. But sometimes he throws them in a different pattern and it's kind of annoying. I always like it when his pattern is fewer of those, but yeah, whatever happens, happens. So what you want to do is just keep jumping over him and keep constant pressure on top of him, and it's as easy as that. The next of the 4 random, I got King Cone. Now the strategy here is to stay underneath him, and every couple of seconds you want to move from right to left and left to right and switch underneath him. You want to do it just before he goes to throw up, so he changes just after he throws up. This will stop him doing his second attack, which is walking from one side to the other. Now, if you ever do get hit, he will eat you because you've got ice cream on your head and you look delicious. But keep constant pressure on top of him and his health will whittle down pretty quickly. Once he eats his ice cream, he'll start this green barrage, which you can just stand still and avoid. I like being on the right-hand side, as you only have to avoid the final 1 or 2 ice creams that he throws out at you, otherwise everything can just be stood there. Boom, so that was like the one that I had to avoid. Also, I got hit at the end, but because of the damage, he didn't actually get to hurt me when he was eating me. The next of the random fights is Stoplight. Now you have to do what he says. You have to wait on the red and you have to go on the green. If you ever move when he is showing red, then you will get hit. Now you technically can move when he is showing yellow, but the window is pretty small, so I wouldn't risk it. Just wait. You know, you don't have a time limit in Boss Rush Impossible. After you get close to him and touch him, be sure not to move whilst he is running away, because you can still get hit. Wait until he has fallen over before you walk up to him and continually shoot him. He's not very difficult and you'll go down with 3 different passes and you get the respite. See, those bosses pretty easy, not too crazy. The next 2 fights are in also a random order. Today I got the Kneft Infestation first. This is a multi-wave fight, and each wave is slightly different. The first is just the Kneft, and there's a tiny amount of them, and so you just shoot into the pile, and eventually they'll go down and die. You shouldn't take any damage here as long as you just focus on shooting, and they aren't much of a threat. Starts off pretty easy. I just like to shoot into the tunnel whilst waiting. The second wave will have 2 of those dog things coming out at you, so just be sure to jump over them and kill them first because they can deal quite a bit of damage. But as you can see now, there are 2 spitters amongst the group which are trying to hit you with their projectiles. Now you do not have enough firepower or speed to kill them, so you will have to jump over, taking some damage as you hit the crowd. This damage is small though, so it shouldn't be too bad, and if you can target one of the spitters, yeah, that's great, do so. Otherwise, from the other side, just whittle it down, and once again, you can get through it. Just be mindful of the spitters' attacks so you can avoid them or shoot them out of the air with a few bullets if you're lucky enough. Now in between these two waves, two enemies will pop out. They are random, but as long as you're paying attention, they will go down very quickly. The third wave, though, has a bunch of these little dog things that will come at you, and you need to kill them quickly because they will deal quite a bit of damage. So just jump over them and focus fire. Then you want to try and shoot over the crowd like you saw in order to hit the back, because there's some exploding ones. Hitting them will usually kill the vast majority of the group. And now we're into our final phase. The Mother Kneft is coming out and trying to kill us. But she is not a threat at all. In fact, the main threat comes from the roof with all of these wall spitter thingies, because they can actually deal quite a bit of damage. So you'll want to focus on them, trying to bring them down whilst shooting into the floor ones so they don't just run into you and overwhelm. They can be a little bit overwhelming, but as long as you stay diligent, you should be able to get rid of them. Now, you don't even have to kill the Mother Kneft because she'll just explode on her own, so you don't even have to fight her, which is pretty cool. Now, the last boss in this random order is Murk. He's a little stew monster kind of thing that just stands there and tries to kill you. So you'll want to avoid those black smoke thingies that are coming out from his pot, because if you stand too close to them, they will deal some damage over time and overheat you. So just be mindful of them whilst you're standing up the top. I found standing on this table in particular to be the best spot to avoid damage, because when he shoots out his things, you have more of a reaction time, you can easily dodge into a safe space, and the black smoke doesn't go up into that top corner very often, so you can usually avoid it quite easily. So in between waves, just shoot him and avoid the black smoke. You can stand there and tank more damage if you really want to, but that's completely up to you. I like to be safe because I'm very paranoid with how much health I have. So as you can see, he has two different types of attacks. He has one where he shoots a wave at the top and a wave at the bottom. Just stand on the table, jump over the wave at the top, constantly firing. The second one, you can just stand on the table and shoot him. If you manage to get it at the start of the wave, you don't even have to move. Otherwise, I would wait until he does his double throw like that one there, and you can then jump on the table and stand there and kill him. Also, after the double throw, the black smoke will have gone, so you don't have to worry about being burnt. There you go, I got hit by the black smoke and got hurt. One thing to be very mindful of at the top is that all of those chairs and tables have their own platforms, so just be careful when you're jumping, because sometimes you can fall off and you're expecting to do a double jump, but you used it, so maybe you can't dodge. The final fight in this wave is always against Breevis, my least favorite fight of the game. He will come at you from the bottom, so as long as you swim away and shoot towards him, then he will get hurt. The gimmick of this fight is that you want to be shooting your gum gun into his mouth so he eats the gum. This will then advance the stages because he will get a little bit sick with all of the food that you're putting into his gullet. Now the best part about this fight is that there are little jellyfish around which will give you 10 health or so every time you touch them. And this is a lifeline on Impossible, because any damage that you've taken on all of those fights up until this point can be mitigated, and you can end this fight at full health. So I like to just go around in circles shooting at him, and then when I get an opportunity or an ability to touch one of the yellow guys, I do. Otherwise, I don't really worry about it at the start of the fight because he's quite long and a little bit difficult to avoid. As you're shooting into his mouth, you can hit his teeth, and every time you destroy one of those, it also gives you 2 health, but it's kind of not really recommended to aim for them. It's just a thing. After he has eaten enough gum, he will get sick and start throwing up. This is where I like to collect the health if I can, if I'm not at max, because then I can focus on it and he isn't chasing me. Now, I don't think you actually need to destroy the gunk that comes out of his mouth. I know that if you do, you can speed up the phases, but I don't know if you don't do it if it doesn't continue. I'm not sure, but just destroy them because they are in the way, and it will make it a little bit easier to dodge things. Now, if he ever bites onto you, you will lose health. If you touch him as well, you'll lose health. You lose more health if you hit one of his teeth, so it is a little bit advantageous to try and get rid of them if you can, but like I said, it's not really easy to aim for. The other thing to avoid are the bubbles, because they can get in your way, and if you ever touch them, you can get trapped. And when you don't have the rapid fire gun, it's pretty annoying to try and get out of them because you just have a slow rate of fire. So after he eats enough, he will do some more throwing up, and you just destroy the little globules as he goes, collecting some health as you can. It's an overall easy fight, and it just takes so much time because you've only got the standard gun. One thing of note is that I really do not like this fight because the swimming controls in this game are a little bit wonky. Every time you let go of the directional pad, if your Wum is not facing upwards, he will go up. And that means that whenever you're trying to do some precise swimming, it can feel a little janky because he's trying to move in a way that you're not actually controlling. So once again, after he's eaten enough, he'll throw up for the 3rd time. Sometimes he will have to throw up 4 times if you do not destroy any of the gunk, I guess. Like I said, I'm not sure. But it is in this final phase that it is very important that we end with full health. Once you've shot enough gum into his mouth that you see that he is at half of the final circle, that is when he is near death. Don't shoot him anymore, just in case. Make sure that you collect all of the health and be at full health before you keep shooting him. I cannot stress this enough, because in Impossible mode, the next set of fights are one of the hardest in the game, and you want to have every single bit of health that you can. So as you can see, just keep shooting into his mouth. It's pretty boring, but there you go. Eventually he will go down, and once you hear him making that blub 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 sound, you know he's dead. You can grab 1 or 2 potential health at the end if you're lucky, but I would try and be at full health before you go into this next phase. So take off your helmet. I've still got my healing item, and if you've got it at this point, you're in a good spot. So the next fight is always against the Church Fnakkers, and they will start by throwing a pretty heavy damage paper thingy at you, but afterwards most of the time they'll either throw that little drum or most likely throw the rocks. The best strategy for this is to actually stay on the floor and walk towards them and shoot them. The reason you do this is because they shoot their rocks at an angle which usually goes over the top of you, and if you end up jumping, that's when you get hit. Now you still can get hit if you're too close when they spit out their rocks, which is a shame, or if you just dodge badly, sometimes you can run into one, but for the majority of it, if you just stay on the floor and head towards them, then that is the best strategy. Because as you can see, when you run towards them, they get a little bit scared and they run away from you, and whilst they're running away, they're not attacking. So as long as you're weaving back and forth, going towards them and then walking away, that is probably the easiest way to do it. Just be mindful of where they are and what they're doing. I sadly took way too much damage in this fight, and I thought this was going to be a bad run, so I was a little bit sad, but you just gotta keep going. Now the next 3 fights are in a random order. I got the Bib Fnakkers, and the best strategy here is to hug the left wall while shooting at them and avoiding their rocks. The reason why you do this is because there's a chance for them to do a rush attack where they will charge at you and go off screen, like that guy did just there. If they ever go off screen, they can despawn, making you just instantly win. And if you get lucky, both of them can run off the screen. And I've seen a video where they do it right at the start and they didn't even get to fight. And I was like, damn, that's pretty lucky. After one runs off the screen, a second Fnakker will come and start attacking you, and hitting it does no damage to the boss health, so you can only focus on the Bib guy. I still like to stay against the left wall on the off chance that he will do the dodge attack, otherwise you can shoot his rocks out of the air, and so they don't hit you, and just keep focusing on trying to hit him and dodging. Hopefully you don't take too much damage, or you get really lucky. The next of the random fights, I got Bram, and I used to think that he was one of the hardest fights of the game until I got to learn this little strategy. By standing against the right wall, a lot of his shots won't be able to hit you. They'll either go over the top of you and hit the wall, or you shoot them out of the air. By angling your gun up so you're shooting roughly the middle of the window that's in front of you there, you can hit most of the shots that are coming towards you. You don't get all of them, as you can see, so you will still take some damage, but most of it can be mitigated. Sometimes you'll also get a random hit on him as he dodges badly, which is a big plus. This strategy is pretty slow and boring, but it is a lot safer. So every time you see him charging up his cannon, you want to rush towards him, shooting a couple bullets. I like to jump as well, just to get a bit of a different angles and see if I can hit him in a different way. And doing so, you can normally get 1, maybe 2 hits on him every time he charges up. If you see him going to heal, you can also try and shoot him, but I found that a little bit harder to do because I wasn't always paying attention to him, I was mostly paying attention to his bullets. If he ever stops shooting at the top right, which does sometimes happen, and he starts shooting you low in the corner, just run towards him to reset him and he will go back to his high shots. This is just a battle of patience, really, and I found that this strategy is probably the best, because normally I was taking about 120 damage or so every time I was fighting him, and I would just be like, oh my god, he is the worst. But now doing the strategy, I take about 40 health of damage, which is far greater. It's still quite a bit, but it's far less than 120. This fight is a little bit boring after you know that strategy, but it is still nerve-wracking because every time you get hit, you're like, damn it! And it only does like 1 to 4 damage. It's not too high, but every little hit counts, especially in this part where there is all the random fights and you don't know which order you're going to get things in. These fights to me are definitely the hardest part of the entire run because all of these enemies hit pretty darn hard and they can kill you very quickly, and you want to have your healing item for the final boss of the game. If you were to practice any of these fights, these are the ones that I would do, but even then there is still a lot of random chance to this because you just don't know what's going to happen and it isn't as predictable as say Stoplight or the ice cream boss. But if you can manage to get through these 4 fights with your healing item, oh, it feels so darn good. The fourth of the random parts of these fights that you can get here are the Fnakker Friends, and there are 4 people trying to kill you now. Now there are 2 main strategies here. The small little Fnakker will throw healing items towards the purple one or the other 2 whilst the purple one is alive, and if you can manage to get in between the purple one and the little one, then you can jump up and steal the healing items as he's throwing it to the purple guy, hopefully mitigating the damage that you're doing and even healing you up higher than you were. There are 2 main strategies to this fight. The first is that you can either focus on the 2 smaller ones and try and kill them first, so then the big purple guy and the little one with the healing is alive. If you manage to do that, then you can stand in between them and get the healing items and heal up potentially back to 200 health before the end of the fight, which is pretty darn impressive. The other way to do it, which is the way that I have been doing it, is to just stand in between them and take out the purple one first, hopefully ending with enough health that you can take down the rest of the game without too much worry. So just be constantly diligent and jumping in between them. Once the big guy goes down, the little one will stop throwing any healing items, so just make sure that you have some health left. If this is the 4th fight in this run like it was for me, then as long as you get to the next fight, you're going to be A-okay. Just be safe, just be careful. These two little Fnakkers are similar to the church ones, where if you run towards them, they can get scared and run back, as you see here, and then you can focus fire on them a little bit more. Just be mindful of their rocks as well, because they do hurt, and because of the uneven ground here, there's a higher chance of you getting hit. With the little one, he is kind of useless and he won't do anything after this, so you can just focus on the other two while he runs around. Now here's Chef Fnakkere, and if you can make it here with some health and your healing item, you're good. You're in your home stretch. As you can see, the start of the fight, he will throw down onions that you can eat. And as you eat them, your health is going up. Yay! I like to stay in the bottom of the pot and heal up quite a bit, and every time he comes down to yell at me, that's when I shoot him. I try not to jump too much in this level because I have accidentally jumped out of the pot a few times, which just completely ruins this. If you ever jump out of the pot, he stops throwing the onions and he just starts trying to hit you with boulders, so there's a good chance that you'll end the fight taking damage. But if you play your cards right, you can go through this whole fight and end up with max health at the end. So just keep catching those onions and keep hitting him whenever he comes down, and don't worry about anything else. Once you have defeated at least one circle of him, he'll get angry at you and he will start throwing rocks towards you. You can avoid them just by going left and right, but even if you get hit, it's not that big of a deal because you should have enough health. Once he starts grinding in some meat, that will also give you some health, which you can heal back up, and then just collect some more onions whilst doing your thing. He really is not that threatening. Also, check out the music that plays here. I absolutely love this track. This is my favorite song in the entire game. It reminds me a lot of Rayman, which is pretty cool. But yeah, just rinse and repeat as he throws down rocks. Try and avoid them. It doesn't really matter if you get hit because he'll do that little grinding thing, giving you health, and he'll continually throw down onions. It's a little bit of a boring fight, but at this point I will take a boring fight because that means I know I'm safe and I'm going to go into the final ones, which are not boring, with full health. After you have dealt enough damage to him, he will always come down. Make sure you do not jump up, because if you do to try and avoid anything, there's a chance that you will accidentally go out of the pot where you will not get any more healing. Now you can stand onto the right side of here and just shoot up towards him, which is pretty good, and you can also stand onto the left in order to deal some damage whilst it's at the top. So just keep damaging him until he's very low health, so that way when he jumps down after doing his little onion toss, you can deal enough damage and kill him and end the level with max health. Well, I ended it with 198, but that's pretty close if you ask me. So if you can manage to get here with both your gun and your healing item, ooh yeah, here we go. The final fights are always against Bankkrent. Now, fun fact about him, he has different face designs, and it's completely random which one you will see. So I managed to get this one, but there is a handsome one and an ugly one, and this is kind of the neutral one. He has three major attacks. The first is that he will spit at you, and he will spit 10 times that you need to avoid. By going from one side of the screen to the other and jumping over one of the bullets, you can usually avoid all of them. The second attack that he has is when he will summon blocks underneath you. If you just walk to the left and right and jump on top of them, you can use them as a platform to hit his eyes a lot easier. After certain amounts of damage, he will drop a little bit of health, so if you're not quite at full, you can be at full if you are diligent enough in this fight. In order to know what attack he will be using, he will squint his eyes if he's going to use the blocks, and he will pucker his lips if he's going to do his spit. Whilst not shown here, you can also try and suck you in. You just have to press down to avoid being sucked in, similar to like the swimming controls. If you made it to this fight with your ice cream, you are in a very good spot. Now, good luck. Bankkrent Phase 2 is goddamn hard. Bankkrent has a few different moves. If you ever hear him go, hoo, ha, 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 that means he's going to summon this circle of little heads around him which will attack you. They attack in a sporadic but repeatable pattern, and I've never quite got it hands down, but if you're moving to the left and right, you can avoid them more efficiently than if you're just standing still, of course. The goal of this fight is to attack his eyes, and if he ever goes down to the bottom like you see here, you can just stand underneath him and shoot up towards his eyes. By attacking the heads around him, that means there are fewer things attacking you, making it easier to dodge. But you have to be mindful of how many of these are still around. When there's fewer than 5 or maybe 6, you will get a little bit of health, and then he will start to do his second phase of attacks, which is ramming you. He can also do a few other things at this phase, like spitting at you, and if you're close towards him, he will only spit once, and if you're further away, he will spit more times. Just chase him down and see if you can get any hits onto his eyes. It is a very good idea to destroy some of the heads so you can whittle them down, so that means it's easier to dodge, but as you can see, I'm not doing the best of dodging abilities, but I'm trying, okay? You can also use the mushroom on the left or right to bounce up towards his eyes, but whilst there is a lot of different heads around, it makes it very difficult to dodge effectively, so just use it with caution. Now that I've destroyed enough, he's doing his ram attack where he will run towards you and deal some burst damage around. He closes his eyes, and if you're too close, then you can get hurt like I was there. It's very easy to dodge. I was just stupid, and I feel really dumb for ever getting hit by that move. I just really hate these guys. They're little, obnoxious, and they deal so much damage because there is so many projectiles in this level. And boom, we've hit him enough times to get rid of his first health bar. Now it's up to you which of the 3 different directions that you choose to go to. I chose the left one, no particular reason, and you have to drop off your buddies so they can start putting up the walls just like in the main story fight. Once they're dropped off, just head back into the main room and go near Bankkrent and just shoot towards his eyes. Sometimes you can get a couple of hits on him before he starts his next attack cycle. Now he's going to be much more aggressive, attacking more frequently, and he'll have a few new moves added as well. For now he's just doing his simple attacks of, going back and forth, spitting as much mud as he can onto me, and doing a good job of hitting me. I'm not the best at dodging, because I'm very nervous and I'm very scared at this point, because this is the do or die. So I wasn't paying attention here and I killed too many of the little Bankkrents. I should have bounced on the mushroom, but oh well. Now this is his brand new attack. When the screen goes red and he concentrates, little veins will come out behind him, and if you're standing on top of any of the veins, you will get hit for massive damage. But while he's doing it, he's vulnerable. Attack him. His next little attack is this fart. It doesn't deal damage walking through it, but once it explodes, it will hurt you, and it also shoots up 4 little projectiles that you have to dodge. After dealing at least half of the next circle's worth of damage, he will change his patterns, but we'll go into that in a little bit, because once your circle guys are finished, you can go to the left and pick them up, and then this little blue orb will come. Now this is very important to collect because it will give you invincibility from the little projectiles for about 20 seconds or so. This means you can run in and try and deal as much damage as you can, and it's really handy to get when he's near the end of his health, so that way you can do as much burst damage and try and get the final hit. From there, I felt really confident because I hadn't used my ice cream yet and I still had 99 health. So I put my last 2 guys up here and then we go back into the fight. Like I said, shooting up towards his eyes is a good chance of just being able to hit him when he reawakens. I got 1 hit before he woke up. And now he does his farts and he starts attacking again. Stupid farts. How does he fart? Does he have a butthole on the other side of that? Maybe he does. I don't know. It's scary to think about. Oh, it's gross. I'm just waiting for him now to do his other thing. So now you can see that his formation is that of a triangle. With the triangle formation, the bullets are much more predictable, but they do attack faster. The bullets go in a circular motion around this triangle, so if you are standing underneath it, it is very easy to dodge, especially if you destroy the bottom 3 parts of the triangle, because then you only have to worry about a few projectiles that can come your way. Aside from that, the fight is essentially the same. You just want to stand underneath him when he's near the bottom and shoot up towards his eyes. The only problem is, due to not having the rapid fire, you cannot deal enough damage to him in this section in order to kill him. So when he gets low in that 3rd circle, he will go and do his big healing move. When he's doing his heal, I like to go and collect my people in order to prepare myself for the final bit of this fight. I'm pretty sure if you're standing near him, you will take damage, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Once again, there's a blue diamond here to collect. Once you do, it'll womp you back into the center, making you immune to all of the small projectile damages. Don't be like me, dodge the vein attack. And now the hardest part of the fight begins, as he is even more aggressive. I got paranoid and I used my healing item here, even though I did technically have another hit. I just didn't want to die, okay? But what makes this part even harder is that now he will be spitting at you almost constantly. And his aim is pretty darn good. I get hit so many times from this guy. It also doesn't help that this is where I get really nervous and like the adrenaline's kicking in. So I'm probably not even playing to the best of my ability. Maybe he's really easy to dodge, man. It's just nerves. But I find it even more difficult because you're looking towards the random projectiles that are coming out around him as well as his spit. The same general tactic is a good one where you're trying to get underneath him and then shooting his eye. If you're timing it just right and you start moving to the left or the right just before he spits, you can dodge it. Try not to jump during this one if you can, because it makes it a little bit harder to dodge his projectiles. But it's up to you. It's kind of just follow what's going on and hope for the best. Sometimes he does a lot of attacks in a row where he's on the floor and you can go in and attack him. Sometimes he's doing a lot of attacks in the air, so you'll have to bounce off this mushroom and get some hits on him. But bouncing off the mushroom I find a little bit more difficult because then you're having the risk of not being able to dodge as effectively from his spit. It's just ridiculous now, and there's no real tips I can give you anymore. You just have to keep an eye on everything, dodge and attack. Hopefully you get a little bit lucky and you can end this fight. Just like that. When he goes and gets done for the third time, run and put your people down in the final location, and you've essentially won this. You're good. Now in the boss rush, you can go to this little spot in the far left corner where you would normally enter the level from and just hide, because now you get a health regen, making it almost impossible to die if you stay here. Occasionally projectiles can still come in. You see me get hit a couple times, but because I'm only getting hit for 10 damage and then healing it all right back up from this, health regeneration, I am more than fine. And with a little bit of time, you too can win. Now, because this is the PS4 version, it did crash directly after this, but I did get my platinum. Also, when I was looking up tips and strategies to do this trophy, everything I found was in a written format. Nobody had done a video like this, so I hope that this has helped you, because this is something that I would have loved to have watched if I was playing the game again. Now, if you have your own tips and tricks, write them in the comments below so you can help out other people that may watch this. And if you haven't got this trophy yet, then good luck. You can do it. It is possible. Now, with all that said, it's time to go. Thank you for joining me, and I'm sure this video will get maybe 1 to 3 views. Nobody's gonna watch it. Damn. But if you made it this far, consider subscribing. That would be really cool. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.